Jemi rikthyer sërish në studio dhe siç lajmërova, tani do të kemi një lidhje virtuale me një gazetar nga Gaza, i cili ka qenë pjesë e stafit të gazetarëve në fakt që ka raportuar nga Gaza, por ai kohëve të fundit tashmë ndodhet në Egjipt, në Kairo të Egjiptit, duke qenë se familja e tij nuk është ndjerë sigurisht të sigurt në fakt në Gaza, por që gjithmonë ka raportuar dhe sigurisht e din situatën se çfarë po ndodh në Gaza dhe pikërisht për këtë do të flasim, çfarë po ndodh në këto momente atje, por edhe për punën e gazetarëve, se sa e vështirë është puna e gazetarëve për të raportuar nga një terren i tillë. Hello, Hamza.
Hello.
Thank you for being part of our program here in North Macedonia in Alsat-Television.
Thanks for having me.
Hamza, I want to ask you, how is the situation? What can you tell us about the situation in Gaza right now? Because I know that you're not in Gaza right now. You flew to Cairo, I guess. But you are still following the news, you are still reporting, I guess, for what is happening in Gaza. So can you tell us about the situation there right now?
Of course. After the Israeli government break the ceasefire, the killing and the blockade on Gaza returned back again. And the situation in Gaza basically just like the first day, the first day of the war on Gaza. I'm talking about October 7th. Airstrikes everywhere across the Gaza Strip, in the northern areas, in the southern areas, in the middle of Gaza Strip. Yesterday, they targeted a whole residential area in Al-Shuja'iyya neighborhood, and dozens of casualties and dozens of injuries. The situation basically is just like the beginning of the war. A lot of massacres, a lot of struggles, displacement from area to another, many evacuation orders.
Mm-hmm. So it's not getting better, actually it's getting worse as the time passes, right?
Of course, it's getting really worse, especially after the Israeli government announced for a blockade. They not letting in any humanitarian aid to enter Gaza Strip. There is no clean water, there is no electricity, there is no enough food, and there is a lot of starvation and hunger. And imagine life without electricity, imagine life without any simple needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually that's what we hear, because also the United Nations have mentioned many times that it's really difficult to send humanitarian help there. How do they struggle? What is the problem? What do they struggle with in this situation about the food, the clean water?
What do you mean? You're asking me about the United Nations?
What are the main problems that United Nations or other organizations can't send food there? They just don't. I mean, it's because of the attacks, or there are other problems?
Because of everything, because of the attacks and because of the blockade. The borders are closed, so no one can enter Gaza Strip, including the humanitarian aid.
So they are preventing to enter the Gaza Strip, right? Also the organization, they are preventing.
There's a high risk and there is a blockade. There is the borders between Gaza and Israel is closed. Specifically, we're talking about any humanitarian aid entering Gaza is coming through Kerem Shalom crossing through Gaza to Gaza Strip. And who controlled that crossing is actually the Israeli government. So there is a huge blockade and a serious blockade on Gaza Strip right now.
Yeah, we can see that it's a very difficult situation. Hamza, I want to talk also about the journalist. How is it to work as a journalist from there in Gaza? Because I know that you have reported from there, even though you're not there right now. But you have reported last year and the year before. You have been there since day one. How is it to be a journalist in an environment like that?
To be a journalist in Gaza Strip is a difficult mission. It is a very difficult mission. Since the beginning of the war, me and my colleagues, we worked under very extreme conditions. We worked from the streets. We struggled to find electricity to charge our laptops and phones so we can report. We struggled to find a place to sleep. We was displaced just like other Palestinians. The high risk of working in the field is also a struggle. You're taking a huge risk, especially when you see your colleagues getting targeted by Israeli aircraft. So it's a high risk. There is a lot of fear. It's very difficult to also find food, to find new equipment. For example, if you lost one of your equipments, then it's very difficult to replace it. Then you need, then you're going to stop covering the war. So the condition in Gaza in general, journalist, doctor, child, woman, is still in the same condition where we struggle to find clean water. We slept in tents. We worked from tents. We did sleep in the street. We have many colleagues. More than 205 journalists have
been killed.
Have been killed in Gaza Strip since the beginning of the war. There is no other war like this. Never happened before.
Yeah, as you said, more than 2,000 journalists and media workers have been killed during this period. Yeah, you said that you have slept on the streets, also you had tents, but are other ways that you can stay safe as journalists so you can continue to report, or now the fear of the journalists is growing every day because just days ago a tent full of journalists was actually attacked, where many of the journalists were wounded, but also we also saw a video of a journalist that was burned alive. So I think maybe this grows the fear also at the journalists for doing their job.
This is what we call a systematic attack against journalists, because since the beginning of the war, Israel targeting journalists systematically to put fear in every journalist and in every Palestinian, especially when you're talking about very popular journalists like Hassam Shabat. He's popular on social media, and there's a lot of people following him. So it's just like a message to the whole world that we don't care and we're doing whatever we want. And they're actually putting fear in every single Palestinian, not only in journalists, because this is the only way to deliver the pictures, to deliver the news, and to deliver updates to the outside world through local journalists, local Palestinian journalists, because Israel is not allowing any international media to enter Gaza Strip. For example, if there's an Albanian journalist who would like to go and cover the war, he can't do it because of the Israeli government. They're not allowing anyone to enter Gaza Strip. So the power of media and the power of journalism is putting fear in front of the Israeli government, because exposing their crimes to the world is a serious issue for them. So as much as possible, they killed journalists to hide the truth. And if I would like to explain the situation in Gaza Strip, it's like 2 million Palestinians are homeless in the street. It's very difficult to find a house or building standing. Most of the buildings are damaged. It's very difficult to survive in Gaza Strip. But Palestinians, they just want the war to end so they can just maybe deal with the struggles. There is a lot of struggles after the war, because there is going to be a huge pressure and a huge stress towards the Palestinians because of the lack of food and the lack of water, and there is no homes for them. They're basically going to stay in tents, whether even in winter or maybe in summer. If it's hot, it's cold, they're going to stay in tent. There's a lot of challenges, of course.
Yeah, that's actually true, because of course they're struggling right now a lot, but they will struggle even even when the war will stop, which we hope it will be soon, because children are being killed every day. So it's really a difficult situation to see. Also, even we that are here very far away, but we also see the news. And about the journalists, they have done a really good job reporting from Gaza while they were risking their life. I want to ask you, I know that every day and every moment has been a risk for your life while you were reporting from Gaza, but have you had a near-death experience that you thought, okay, maybe it's now it's time to just fly from Gaza, to get out of here?
Basically, for me, the serious fear of death since the beginning of my life. I grew up in Jabalia camp. I know, of course, if you know Jabalia camp, it's an area in the northern Gaza Strip. And I grew up losing family members and losing friends, and rockets next to me and airstrikes next to me. So I grew up in fear. The reason behind me fleeing from Gaza to Egypt is actually my parents. I have an elderly parents, and my father passed away a few months ago. He used to get his treatment because of dialysis in Gaza Strip, and you know, almost every single hospital in Gaza Strip is demolished, and it's very difficult to get proper treatment for the patient. So I managed to take my parents out to Egypt because they're old and they need serious care.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I want to share my condolences for everyone that you have lost, because maybe you have lost family, friends, colleagues. Since we talked about how many journalists actually were killed there. Do you think that journalists, since we are speaking about journalists, do you think that journalists can or should mentally or emotionally be prepared for situations like this, because it's really difficult to work in an environment where every day you are risking your life. You don't know if you're going to be alive the next minute. So even when we talk about this period of time, because it is a long period of time, so how are let's say the journalists, how do manage to report, from the journalists that are there from the beginning, how do they manage to continue to report? Maybe it's the motivation that they want the world to hear the truth?
First, I'll start by saying we're living in a world where adults go to therapy because of relationship pressure. And imagine many thousands of Palestinians, thousands of children living in Gaza right now under bombardment and under hunger and under fear.
Yeah.
And there's no therapy for Gazans. There's no even water, there's no food, there's nothing for them. And we're living in a world, as I mentioned, where people go to therapy for simple stuff, for small stuff. And how what's the motivation for Palestinians to report what is going on, even it's dangerous? It's actually because this is the only tool they have. They have nothing else. So imagine you're living in Gaza and you're dying anyway. It's better for you to just use that tool you have. This is the only tool they're using, which is their phones and their camera, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because this is the only way to do it.
That's true, actually. Journalism right there in Gaza is not just a profession or just a job. I think journalists are kind of warriors in a good sense when I say this, because they of course they struggle, but they fight to say the truth. They risk their life to say the truth, so the world knows what is happening. Since now you are out of Gaza, and of course you are following the news all over the world. What do you think people outside of Gaza, people that live far away from Gaza, how do they, let's say, what do they think about the situation of the Gaza? Or what do they misunderstand mostly about the situation in Gaza?
They're not missing anything because, as you mentioned, journalists they're doing a great job delivering and reporting from Gaza. They're actually helpless. Everybody, every human being, feel the Palestinians, feel the pain over there, knows exactly what's going on. There is a genocide committing. There's a lot of crimes. There's children dying. There's children under the rubble. There's hunger. There's blockade. There's no electricity. There's no water. They understand all this, but they are helpless. They can't do anything.
How have you dealt with, or how do journalists deal with, because you actually mentioned that there is no electricity, technical stuff, you may have technical problems while you are reporting. How do you, let's say, despite these challenges, how do you did you manage to report even when there was short of electricity, or you didn't have much technology to report?
Very good question. Now, if you notice that hospitals in Gaza are full of displaced Palestinians, and the reason behind this is the only place where they find safety and find electricity. In hospitals, of course, they have generators, electricity generators, so we're using electricity from hospitals to charge our phones and camera. That's why we find Palestinians sheltering inside hospitals and sheltering inside maybe schools or not a private building. There you will find them just in the hospital or around the hospital because they can't find electricity. Maybe they can't find water to shower or something like that. But there's no drinking water, for example.
Yeah, that's a difficult situation. How is the situation in general with the hospitals? Do they have everything that they need, maybe, or like electricity, as you said, or?
There's lack of doctors. You know, Israel is targeting doctors as well, targeting doctors, and there is a lot of lack of equipment, medical equipment.
Yeah.
There's no equipment. So you're talking in demolished hospitals.
Yeah.
You see what happens to Al-Shifa Hospital, to Al-Ahli Hospital, to the Indonesian Hospital, to Al-Quds Hospital, to Al-Kuwaiti Hospital, to Al-Nasser Hospital. They targeted on camera, live on camera, just a few weeks ago. This is ridiculous, and this is something unbelievable that the world is still silent about it. The international community should take serious actions to stop the killing first and then help the Palestinians to survive this crisis.
So hospitals are also targeted?
Clearly, it's live on TV. You can just Google it, or you can find it. They targeted at the Al-Nasser Hospital, live on camera, when Al Jazeera correspondent was live on TV. They targeted the hospital. Yeah. And you can find the video everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes the world only sees the small parts, as we say, because of course we watch the news from everywhere as much as they are reporting from there. Of course, we follow the journalists that report from there, but sometimes maybe we just see the small parts. Do you think that people in the world understand what's really happening in Gaza right now?
I think, yes, everyone in the world understands what's really happening in Gaza, and everyone is who, for example, doesn't understand that means he don't want to understand, because it's clearly everyone in the world watched by his own eyes and ears what's going on in Gaza, and it's very clear what's going on in Gaza. It's completely clear.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, maybe sometimes we just see what we want to see, but the truth should always be seen like it is. Hamza, we are in our final minutes, let's say, of our interview. What is the message that you would like to give the world?
My message to the world that the Palestinians have the right to live like a human being. Mm-hmm. They deserve their rights, and we need first to stop the killing. Mm-hmm. First, and then we need to rebuild Gaza and give Gazans their right. And my message to the world, I'm excited to go back to my home, yes. Jabalia Catch.
Yeah, we hope for you soon to get back home, and not only you but all the Palestinians that are all away from home. Hamza, thank you very much for being part of our television to give us, let's say, a view of what is happening in Gaza and what do journalists, what are the challenges that journalists deal with. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.